Welcome to the Freehold Mythic Plus guide. Do you want to get that little dice trinket? Do you want to get that mount? Well, look no further, as this will be a complete and absolute cover A to Z, everything you need to know in Mythic Plus on Freehold. And this guide series is made possible 100% through the support of our Patreons. And we want to thank each and every one of y'all. If you enjoyed this type of content, you can check the link in the description and see what's that all about. Thank you once again. Now let's go! There are many route options here, with or without invisibility or rogue skips, warlock gateways over bridges, soulstone skips, and so on. We will link the MDT string in the description based on the BFA version of the add-on, and we will update it later on if it changes too much, when add-ons and websites get updated to the new Dragonflight version. Everything will be updated in a pinned comment, so do check it out. As you start the dungeon, you may notice the first boss flying around the area on his parrot, throwing poop at your party with vile bombardment. Move out of this, as it deals ticking damage and slows you. The first 3 packs can be pulled together without too much difficulty, but if you're unsure, take it slow. Let's see what we have in them. The priority mob to kill is the Iron Tide Enforcer. It slaps your tank around with Shattering Toss, dealing damage and throwing them on another party member, also removing threats. So tanks, be quick to taunt it back if you lost aggro. Brutal Backhand is a cone attack which knocks back all players in range and deals physical damage. Luckily, you can stun this. Iron Tide Bonesaw is the target of your interrupts when they cast Healing Balm. Be careful with their filthy blade attacks as well, as they cause inflicted wound in an 8-yard radius, reducing their target's healing taken by 20%. And it stacks. Iron Tide Corsairs cast Poisoning Strike, leaping behind players and poisoning them. The poison also stacks, so dispel it if you can. It hurts pretty bad in combination with the infected wounds and the dog's attacks. What dogs? Well, the Iron Tide Mastiffs, of course. These puppers cast Crippling Bite, dealing physical damage and reducing the target's movement speed by 50%. They also cast Bestial Wrath, increasing their physical damage dealt by 50% for 1 minute. Luckily, this is an enrage, so you can shoot them. The Iron Tide Crackshot is the last type of trash mob in this area, and they don't do too much. They cast Shoot, dealing physical damage, and Azerite Grenade, throwing a bomb at their target, dealing fire damage to all players within the blast radius and pushing them back. You can move out of this easily. The crack shots are a bit annoying, as they cannot be interrupted, so they don't move. So if you want to cleave them down together with the rest of the pack, find a good place to line of sight them, like under the stairs here, or near the boss area here, or even in this little house over here. You can also skip all these if you shroud all the way to the first boss, of course. You will need to clear the pack guarding the paddock entrance at the first boss to come down, and make sure you wait for the patrol to leave if you're not planning to pull it. In phase 1 of this fight, the boss is mounted on Sharkbait, the mount everyone has, except you. Yeah. He will charge towards one of your party members, dealing nature damage and knocking back anyone within 8 yards. So simply move out of his way and dodge the swirly. The boss also casts Pistol Shot, which is unavoidable and deals fire damage. This also hurts quite a bit in hierarchies, so watch out for the combos. Now, phase 2 is the one you're gonna start wondering why you came here on a tyrannical week. When the boss reaches 75%, he dismounts Sharkbait and sends him to attack you from the top and from the side, while you are focused on the pirate, who loses his phase 1 abilities but gains new ones. Sharkbait will once again throw his poop at your party, preferring the players closest to him. He flies around above you, so you can actually bait that away from the rest of the group if you are aware of where the bird is at all times. However, be very careful where you bait this, and remember the patrol you didn't kill earlier, and don't pull it into the boss fight. It may complicate things just a bit. The Vile Bombardment, or as we know it, Parrot Poop. will deal ticking nature damage and slow you by 40%, so make sure to move out fast, or you may not be able to dodge other abilities like his dive bomb, a hard-hitting knockback to anyone in his way. While Sharkbait is off annoying your ranged player, the boss will do Revitalizing Brew, a long, interruptible channel where the boss drinks a healing brew over 5 seconds. If you interrupt this, the bottle will fall out of his hands and your party members can click it and use it as a channeled heal just in case you need some extra. The captain will also cast Azurite Powder Shot, a 60-yard cone attack, so make sure to spread around the boss so that you don't take all the damage from it. Unfortunately, this can no longer be outranged with the recent changes, but it is dispellable, so there is a silver lining. Once the first boss is dead, the trash downstairs runs away, except this hero enforcer, who you can grab with you on the bridge and DPS him as you go towards the next area, or just pass him quickly and cleave him down with the trash you have there. You can also invis-skip or shroud through here, but that seems overly complicated when you can just keep running while mounted and kill him with the next pack. Now in this area, there used to be 3 events you could have gotten in 3 different weeks, and they influenced which bosses were going to be active next. But with the latest changes to the dungeon, the events are gone and the bosses are an automatic rotation, so yay, less things to do. Let's first see what kind of trash we have to deal with in here. There are these rat packs patrolling around, which you need to be a bit careful with, especially if you pull them with other packs. The vermin trappers are the rat-mounted Vulpiras who cast rat traps. These can be dodged as they don't insta-activate, and they also can be cleared with immunities like Freedom. If you do step in them, you will be rooted for 5 seconds and take physical damage. The small army of rats around the trappers are soggy ship rats, and they cast Scabrous Bite, a stackable debuff which will reduce your healing taken by 10%, so you want to stun them and cleave them down quickly before Tank loses all hope. They also cast Bestial Rat, just like the Mastiffs, but you're probably better off using the Global on finishing them off rather than dispelling their enrage. Also in this area you will find Iron-Tide Horsemen, who cast Sea Spout, creating watery swirlies which will deal damage and push players back. Combined with stepping into a rat trap, this is pretty bad, so dodge, dodge, dodge! Cutwater Duelists charge player with Duelist Dash and deal damage to all players in their path. Their targets and whoever else is in the nearby area will also get a 2-second stun, so make sure to dodge this. Blacktooth Brutes cast Earthshaker, dealing nature damage to all nearby players. Blitch Rat Patfoot are sneaky little Vulpiras who cast Plague Step, leaping behind their target, dealing nature damage and leaving a disease which deals more nature damage and decreases all healing taken by 25%. Again, a bad combination with the rats. Blacktooth Scrappers are very annoying when they cast Blind Rage, fixating players and following them around like stalkers. This increases their physical damage done by 50%, but it's an enrage so you can suit it and move on with your life. If you don't have an enrage suit, Kite, or CC. The neutral mobs around here, like the Freehold Deckhand, Freehold Barhand, and Freehold Shipmate, don't have any special abilities and they will generally leave you be unless you clip them with AoE effects. The Blitz Rat Swabby is a different story. While they don't hit hard or try to kill you like there's no tomorrow, they will cast Slippery Suds on you, messing with your very awesome jumping while DPSing. We all know jumping increases DPS, come on. Pretty much any form of jumping will stun you for 2 seconds while you have this debuff on you, so don't jump! The Blige Rat Bryn Scales have 2 attacks, Water Bolt, an interruptible cast dealing frost damage, and more importantly, Frost Blast, a long cast which deals damage to players within 40 yards and reducing their movement speed by 40% for 12 seconds, and which you should definitely interrupt. Cutwater Knife Jugglers have a ricocheting throw which will deal physical damage to a target and then bounce to other nearby party members, so stay spread out when fighting these. Blitz Rat Buccaneers are going bananas in a whirlwind, dealing high physical damage to anyone nearby, so make sure to CC them out of the cast. Lastly, Blacktooth Knuckle Dusters cast Shattering Below, dealing damage and interrupting casts, so just interrupt it. So, in what used to be the weekly events, basically the pirates belonged to 3 different crews, and in the past you had to join one of their crews unless you wanted to fight all 3 bosses at once. When you completed the event that was available for that week, the crew would have become friendly, including one of the 3 bosses that comes next. But now, since it's all automatic, you already have 1 boss as friendly NPCs. Each of the bosses has 2 abilities they will use against you and 1 ability if they fight by your side. Eudora casts Powder Shot at a random party member dealing physical damage. She also leaps into a couple of predetermined spots around the area you see the markers here and starts blasting Grape Shot. This is a series of frontal cone rifle shots across the arena. You can dodge these by moving behind her if you are in melee, and range players can line of sight this attack by hiding behind the pillars around the area. Her Grape Shot attack also applies a stacking dot to hit players, so if you're a baddie and get hit, make sure to not run in the same direction the shots are going and avoid stacking that dot up. One of the areas she leaps to is also quite close to a patrol as well, so if you don't trust your party too much, maybe clear this pack before the boss fight, as ninja pulling might cause a wipe. She generally leaps to the furthest point of where she's being tanked as well, so you can more or less plan ahead. While she is allied with you, Eudora will gain the Chain Shot ability, which stuns the other bosses for 6 seconds. Raoul will cast Blackout Barrel, throwing an empty barrel at one of your party members, disorienting them until the barrel is destroyed, so DPS the barrel quickly. If you have a paladin buddy with you, they can also use Blessing of Protection or Freedom to insta-clear this. He seems to now prefer throwing it on the DPS than the healer, and tanks are his last resort. He also does Barrel Smash, lifting his empty barrel and slamming it to the ground for the next 2 seconds and deals a large amount of damage. All nearby players will take physical damage and get knocked back with each consecutive strike. If you have Raoul as your ally, he will gain the Tapped Keg ability. Throwing a keg on the floor and standing in it will buff players with a 15% damage buff. Jolly casts Cutting Surge, dashing to a player and dealing physical damage to anyone within 5 yards of his target. This will also apply a bleed effect to hit players, which will deal physical damage for the next 12 seconds. His second attack is Whirlpool of Blades, a very obvious whirlwind which will deal nature damage to anyone nearby. His allied ability is Trade Wind's Vigor, which will increase the movement speed of your party by 40% for 10 seconds. This is particularly useful when Eudora casts her Grape Shot attack. Now, Rummy Mancom, the bartender, enjoys watching brawls and getting involved sometimes, but he won't actually join the fight. He will continue serving his drinks through the madness going on in front of his bar, and he will throw beers at the fighting area, which will affect you with either a positive or a negative effect. So try to position yourself and the bosses in or out of the swirly depending on the type of brew. If you are a madman and don't use DPM, bigwigs or weak auras, we recommend putting the bartender on focus and keeping an eye on the type of brew he's throwing at you. The bad brew is the caustic Freehold brew, and if you stand in the swirly where it drops, it will place a dot on you and the bosses depending on who stands in the swirly, and this will inflict nature damage for the next 8 seconds. This is also the only brew that affects the bosses now. The good brews are confidence boosting Freehold brew, gaining you a 30% critical strike buff for 8 seconds, and invigorating Freehold brew, increasing your haste by 30% for 8 seconds. It is sometimes difficult to stand in the good brews with all the other abilities happening, so be safe and don't die trying to get yourself drunk on glorious buffs. We have a couple of more trash packs after this boss, but the route options are endless. We prefer taking the right side here, especially if we didn't bring a stealth class. We mention stealth classes because they can run ahead to the next boss area and activate the event while the rest of the party clears trash. You can either have them activated and return to clear with you, or have them remain there and catch a pig all by themselves. We think coming back to clear trash is the best option, as the pig takes a minute to activate and the whole party can click it all at once to insta-complete the event. The new trash mobs you're going to encounter in this area are the Cutwater Harpooners, which are pretty annoying with their dragging harpoon, especially if they drag you into the other mechanics. This attack will deal physical damage and pull you to the harpooner. This makes a bad combination with the Irontide Crushers in this area, which cast Ground Shatter, a large AoE swirly which deals physical damage and knocks back players within 10 yards. They also do Boulder Throw, a swirly which also deals physical damage to all players nearby and stuns them. Basically, dodge everything, dodge for life. For the pirate packs, we recommend using the houses to line of sight them in order to gather several packs up if you want to pull big and avoid accidental patrols. We have reached the Ring of Bota. Here you will also have to complete 3 events in order to move on. For the big event, you can all stack and click it as it lands, as mentioned before. Follow the shadow to have an easier time tracking the pig. Lightning the pig must be caught 5 times in order to complete the event, and it's sometimes difficult to run around after it if you're slow, and on top of this, the first 4 clicks on him will stun the person who caught the pig. In the downtime between the 3 events, you can pull more packs in here if you still need trash percentage. Ludwig von Tortelen is a mini-boss who's gonna slap your party around with shell bounce. Getting hit by these will deal damage and knock you back, so dodge them shells and kill the Ninja Turtle. The longer this takes, the harder it becomes to dodge shells, so don't be afraid to pop a CD or 2 here. The third event is defeating Throlthak, the Shark Puncher. He has 3 attacks. Ripper Punch, dealing damage to any enemy in melee, inflicting physical damage and leaving a bleed for 12 seconds. Shark Toss, his most notable ability perhaps, throws a shark at a player, dealing damage to anyone within 8 yards of the shark drop zone. The shark will start chasing the nearest player and try to eat them, dealing high damage if they catch him. Have a mobile range class or healer. Please leave meta healers alone! Kite this around the arena and into the blood and chump pool spawning here, as they will slow down the sharks by 50%. Meanwhile, the melees will need to deal with his Shark Tornado, a whirlwind where the boss grabs one of his sharks by the tail and spins around with it, dealing physical damage to anyone standing nearby. Either pop Giga Defensives or move out when this happens, as it hurts a lot. Paladins can once again cheese this with Blessing of Protection, or better yet, use it on another melee as their own attacks are decently long-ranged. Sharkman will also go and collect his Stalker Sharks after a while and rearm them. Picking up the sharks will also deal AoE damage, so make sure to keep some distance from the loose sharks and try not to be between the boss and the shark as he charges on his way to pick it up. Another thing we want to mention here: if you at any point during the fight leave the arena, the spectators are going to throw rotten food at you, and let me tell you, it deals more damage than the boss. The people came down here for a show, so give them a show and stay in the arena. When Shark Arms is defeated, you can move on to the last area of the dungeon across the bridge. You can use a Warlock Gateway here to skip most of the trash packs, or if the gate won't stick or you miss a Warlock, you can have your party run up here. The healer can Shadow Meld and Mass Press everyone else. The same thing works with a Soulstone if you have one available. Anyway, the new types of trash mobs here are the Irontide Ravagers, Stormcallers, Buccaneers, and Officers. The Ravagers will cast Painful Motivation, a long cast which increases their damage and that of 2 nearby trash mobs by 45%, but they also take 1% max health as damage every second. This scales with the key level, however, so it's actually a big help to your party if your tank can survive the attacks. In high keys, this will eliminate the mobs before you figure out how to pronounce incorporeal. They don't really do much else, so we prefer to let this cast go through and just AoE them down with the rest of the trash as they eventually get themselves killed, and we have the interrupt available for the other trash mobs. The Stormcallers cast Lightning Bolt, dealing nature damage, and you should interrupt this if not much else is happening. They also cast Thundering Squall, a channeled attack which deals loads of nature damage to all players within it, and this takes priority and interrupts here. There's not a lot of room to dodge, so try to keep AoE swirls and abilities under control so that your party members don't end up pulling extra trash by accident. Officers are the mounted units, and they cast Oiled Blade, making the target of their attacks to receive 75% less healing for 8 seconds on top of getting a slap with some fire damage, which is why we also recommend you don't pull this mob with other packs unless your tank is God mode and can handle all of that healing reduction. The Oiled Blade can also be dispelled as it is a magic debuff, so as long as your healer pays attention, you're good to go. And lastly, the Buccaneers here cast Blade Barrage, a frontal cone which is pretty easy to dodge as they remain still as they do it. CC them or simply move to the side. Now, the last pack used to be skipped, but currently on the PTR it gets pulled automatically when you pull the last boss. We are not sure if this is intended, so it may still change, and if that happens, we'll pin it in the comments. But we think it will remain this way, so keep in mind either way and plan around the trash percentage you need depending on this pack being pulled as well. The last boss has several dangerous abilities and may wipe the floor with you. No joke. In Tyrannical High Keys, it's probably best to have all the room in the world here. His most popular attack is Cannon Barrage, marking a player which will be targeted by cannon fire. Make sure you keep moving and don't get hit by this. Try to place this in a spot away from your group if possible, as it does leave fiery pools on the floor which will also deal damage. Getting hit by the barrage will also place Flaming Sharpnel on you, dealing fire damage over 4 seconds. The boss will cast Swiftwind Saber, which fires a blade at a random player. Watch out for this and try to dodge it. Also, don't have your back towards the cannon barrage pools, as the sabers may push you back into the pools and get you killed. Whirling Dagger will throw a dagger at a random non-tank player, inflicting physical damage and leaving a 3-second bleed. The boss will also call upon Irontide Grenadiers to come down and attack a random party member. The Grenadiers carry black powdered bombs which explode on impact with the targeted player and deal large amounts of fire damage to anyone nearby. Luckily, they can be CC'd in various ways, so you can just let them explode by themselves when the bomb timer runs out. Hunters can pre-trap the area where the Grenadiers drop as well. When the boss reaches 60% health, he will gain the Loaded Dice All Hands buff, and his abilities will target multiple players. Pretty much everyone except the tank will get targeted with Cannon Barrage, so if you want to keep the room clean, you can either make a ranged and melee camp, or you can all stack up and kite the swirls in the same direction. If you choose to be spread out, that's also okay, but make sure to not cut other players off with your cannon fire. Whirling Dagger will now ricochet through all the players in your group. The Swiftman Sabers shoot 5 sabers in random directions, so watch out which way they are pointing and dodge them, while remembering to not have fire patches behind you. At 30% health, Harlan will gain Loaded Dice Meteor, causing his abilities to trigger more frequently and giving him a 100% attack speed buff as well. On the bright side, this is also the point where he will take 100% extra damage, so in high tyrannical keys, you should definitely save all sorts of cooldowns for this part and nuke him down quickly before he nukes you down. Now, loot your loaded dice trinket and get back to trade it away. No chance. Congratulations if you made it all the way to this point. Now you're probably a Freehold master. And I know this was common knowledge from back in the day, but I'm sure a lot of information has slipped out because we haven't done Freehold for quite a while, okay? So I hope this was helpful. If it was, let us know in the comments. Once again, this is all made possible due to our Patreons, patreon.com/Marcelian&Online. You can check it out in the description. You can go ahead and support all of the content that we do here. Obviously, it's not required, but man, does it make a huge difference. Thank you for watching up until this point, Have a great day ahead, and see you in Freehold. Bye!
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.